Hi guys, this is Michelle with Let's Radiate, and today I wanted to talk about what your workspace is telling you. First off, I'm going to define the word workspace, or at least how I use it. I define this word as the space that you create, hopefully intentionally, for your work. And what I mean by hopefully intentionally is hopefully you are actively thinking about what you're putting in your workspace and what purpose that thing serves in your workspace and what effect that's going to have on your work. I also use the term workspace to talk about more non-tangible spaces that you create for your work, like the digital space that you create for your work, or even the mental space that you create for your work. But this video is purely focused on the physical space that you create for your work. So most people don't realize it, but how you literally structure your workspace can have a very, very visceral effect on your actual work and the quality of your work and the shape of your workday. And to kind of back that up, I wanted to talk about some studies that Dan Pink references in A Whole New Mind, and these are more about the effect of aesthetics overall, and then I'm going to move on to another reference which talks about structuring a workspace in specific. So the studies that Dan Pink talks about in A Whole New Mind, the first one that he talks about is a study at Pittsburgh's Montefiore Hospital. They studied surgery patients, and they found that surgery patients with a lot of natural light in their room required less pain medication overall, and their drug costs were 21% lower than the control group. There was another study that compared two groups of patients with completely identical ailments, and one of the groups was treated in a conventional ward, and one was treated in a modern, sunlit, visually appealing ward, which is a big difference from a conventional hospital ward if you've seen one lately. And the patients that were in the better designed ward needed less pain medications overall, like the first group, or the first study, and they were discharged on average 2 full days early compared to the control group. There was also a study at Georgetown University that found that even if the students, teachers, and the educational approach remained exactly the same across the board, changing the school's physical environment to improve the design of it could increase test scores by as much as 11%. So that's already fairly significant. And then I wanted to reference a story that is talked about in How to Think Like Leonardo Da Vinci, which is a really great book, and I highly, highly recommend it. And this is in the, I'm sure I'm saying it's wrong, the Sensus Zone chapter, the chapter on the senses. And he talks about how there was a learning resources group of a medical equipment or company that asked him for help in solving a training problem. And the training problem that they were having is that they needed their training students to complete the training in 1 week, but instead it was taking the students 2 or even 3 weeks to complete the training. So they brought this guy in. He's like a Da Vincian consultant, which is pretty awesome. And they asked him, like what they could do to help improve the speed of the training without dumbing things down or without changing the teaching methods. And he was really impressed with the facility. He was really impressed with the state-of-the-art teaching methods that they had. They had computerized classes, which is pretty impressive considering that this was in 1982. But the rest of the workplace was like Cubicleville, generic color walls, no pictures, no paintings, no music. The only consideration given to aesthetics is that there were pictures of each machine above the machine that the students were going to be working on. So he had the people from this learning resources group go to a seminar that he taught about the application of Da Vincian thinking skills to real life problems. And then on their first day back, they started playing Mozart violin concertos during the workday. And from that first day onward, they reported that the students were asking at least 50% fewer unnecessary questions. The theory that they came up with was that the music helped the students get relaxed and focused, which freed them from the need to get confused in order to give them a break from the learning and the monotony of learning. There were other changes that they made at the training facility, which included they removed the machine pictures and they replaced them with reproductions of famous paintings. They also replaced the fluorescent bulbs with full spectrum bulbs, and they encouraged the students to bring in fresh flowers and plants to make the environment more aesthetically pleasing and fragrant and alive feeling. And they also transformed the coffee lounge into a creative break room that had colored pens and flip charts for doodling, and also had Lego sets, Play-Doh sets, and Slinkies to help enliven the sense of touch. So over the next year, they did their own study on the effects of these changes and what effects they had on the training. And the result was that learning effectiveness was improved by 90% compared to the rate before they made these changes, which is huge. 90% is a really big deal. And that's the sort of effect that you can get if you really intentionally structure your workspace. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard the statistic about how we process most of our information through sight. When we're talking to someone, most of the impression that we're getting from them is body language and doesn't actually have to do with what they're saying. So if you think about, these studies and these anecdotes and you put all of this in mind with your workspace, you realize that you have this big opportunity to reinforce your values and your priorities and the actions that you need to take when you structure your workspace and shape your workday through it. And this right here is my workspace. This desk is temporary because I haven't found a different desk that I like enough yet. I gave my husband my old desk. I haven't found another desk that I like enough to buy yet. But even given the fact that this desk is temporary and that we just moved, so there's some things that I haven't got to implement that I want to yet, there's still, I've taken very specific steps. I've got a calendar over there so that I can see my month at a glance and see where I'm at in the month and how much of the month left I have to go. Right next to the calendar, I have my monthly goals, both monetary and actions. And I'm going to create like a pretty monthly goal form and then frame it so that it becomes dry erase, and then fill that out at the beginning of every month instead of just having a piece of paper tacked to the wall. And I've also got, this piece of key artwork because I love keys, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but I have my Right Brain business map collage above that too. So I've got those specifically in there. I want to add a similar dry erase form like I talked about for the monthly goals for my daily goals, which I haven't got a chance to do yet. And I really like the idea of that because I feel that would give a very intentional practice to starting the day of transferring, all of your goals onto that and then having them in a very visible spot so that you know what your priorities are for the day and what actions you need to take. I also have my Right Brain business plan value cards here, and I want to incorporate them somehow. I'm thinking about hanging like some kind of magnet board or something and then sticking them to it with magnets so that they're there and I have a very visible reminder of my values throughout my workday. So after hearing all of this and getting to think about it for a minute, I want you to ask yourself, what is your workspace telling you? And is it supporting you in your goals and in your values? Is it affirming your goals and your values? Or is it showing someone else's goals and values? Or is it not showing any goals and values at all? And once you get to chew on those questions for a little bit, just ask yourself how you can improve it, how you can thoughtfully structure your workplace to create the kind of changes that you want to make. Think about the changes that you want to make, and then think about what you can do to create those changes. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. This is Michelle at letsradiate.com. I hope you have a great day.